As the world looks like it's beginning to reopen, most of the population that live in areas that the restrictions are easing are taking a big sigh of relief. This feeling being, of course, natural after the world pretty much was under a 2-month lockdown where everyone was forced to stay inside and not socialize. And even if you wanted to break the rules, there wasn't even a place to go. The world's so gripped with fear that even your loved ones don't feel safe around you. Some of our family members don't even want you to visit because they're scared you have the virus. With the world like this, people are so anxious for things to get back to normal. So as things seem to loosen up, the majority is ready to hop right on it and quickly get back into society, hoping for normalcy again and willing to deal with the few changes that have been implemented in order for them to live the life that they once knew. When this pandemic started and they started this mandatory quarantine, I didn't fare well with it at first. And it's weird because my family and I have been social distancing from the world for many years before the coronavirus ever happened, for many different reasons. I've always expected a worldwide problem to affect the world population, but I never expected it to happen in this way. For me personally, it was one thing to be forced inside because you can physically see your threat, but to be forced inside because the governments, who have lied so many times to us before, have required us to stay home and away from everyone, it really bothered me. But I had to sit back and try to analyze what was happening and what is truly going on. I've sat back in prayer and asked Father to really help me clearly discern the times. This is a very dangerous time to live in, and I'm not saying this because of the virus. We are in a grand social conditioning experiment, and before everyone just tries to jump back into the world, you must really step into this awareness of that fact. Because if you are engaging in this world solely by trusting your governmental leaders, the news media, and celebrities, you are being herded into a new mental mindset that is leading you in a path that is heading straight off a cliff. Before you head back out into society, I want to provide you with some perspectives that I believe that you should have as you try to navigate your life. Let's begin. So, why did I say social conditioning experiment? What exactly is that? Social conditioning is a sociological process of training individuals in a society to respond in a manner generally approved by the society in general and peer groups within society. So, it's just getting people in a society to respond and act in a certain way. They keep telling us that the world is changing, and as time goes on, they continuously show us the ways in which this change is happening. So the first thing that everyone really needs to understand, it really needs to sink in, is that we will not be going back to life as normal. The way of life that we had prior to this virus is slowly transforming. You should not be approaching life today from a mindset as things were just paused for a couple months and now life is about to move on. This is a wrong and dangerous way of thinking. Since the beginning of this crisis, the governments and the media continuously tried to suggest to us that there's going to be new normals. We would hear them say it, but the majority, in my opinion, were not registering it. We are entering a world that will be much more controlled than ever before. There will be a lack of privacy and rights, all in the name of public safety. The job world will be forever changed. Many businesses that existed prior to this pandemic will not be in existence within a year. The way we interact with one another has been totally changed. If you are approaching life in a mindset of trying to get back to normal, you are walking down a dangerous path that will lead you into problems in the near future. Let me just summarize what happened over the last few months. Before the coronavirus, the United States, as a matter of fact, the entire world economy has been in a debt bubble. Now, when you listen to the leaders, they all tell us that the economy was doing great before this happened, but this is extremely far from the truth. Now, I won't get into the debt bubble piece. I have a video specifically about this. Watch that next if you want to understand this more. But the point is that things were not great economically before the pandemic. The world economy was just being artificially manipulated and propped up by cheap and easy money. Even at the time before his election, then candidate Trump knew this was the case.
Going on. Now look, we have the worst revival of an economy since the Great Depression. And believe me, we're in a bubble right now. And the only thing that looks good is the stock market. But if you raise interest rates even a little bit, that's going to come crashing down. We are in a big, fat, ugly bubble.
And then he gets elected, never speaks about the bubble again, and ties his whole presidency to the stock market and continued to add to the debt bubble instead. The point I'm getting at is that no matter what, at some point the world economy has to reset and correct. The thing that the leaders of this world have been most concerned with is not the stock market collapse, but the narrative. A narrative is the spoken or written account of connected events, a story. If they allow the economy to collapse, and the narrative was that things went bad because they managed the world economy poorly, they would lose control. So what this virus did is provide a scapegoat so they can build a narrative or story that is centered around the virus and not them. But if you're just being introduced to this understanding, it may be too much for you to process from this brief explanation. I have covered this in other videos that may be able to give you more background info. But here we are with a perfect scapegoat for them, and they are using it now to transform the world. Again, why does the world need to change? Why do they keep telling us that we are moving into a new world? Former President Obama gave a very dismal commencement speech to the graduating high school seniors here in America. And in that hour-long program, it was consistently mentioned that these children were in charge of shaping this new world.
Because with so much uncertainty, with everything suddenly up for grabs, this is your generation's world to shape.
And they need to be global citizens.
These last 12 years of school has prepared you all to go out into the world and be global citizens.
It's a mindset change that they are giving to our children. They are telling us the same thing in many different ways, and I am going to keep saying this in different ways. If you are living your life with an expectation of entering the old world, you are going to lose in a very big way. Now, a major point you need to understand is that there will be a brief quarter of a resemblance of what appears to be our old world, just with a few twists. We are entering the summertime, and it's a given that we shouldn't be worrying about the flu or a virus like the flu, which is how they presented COVID-19 to us from the beginning. We normally do not worry about catching the flu during the summer months, so they are allowing us to re-enter society over the summer, but they are not totally allowing us to let go of the changes that they have put in place, because they do not want to allow us to totally put our guard down. So they are reopening, but they want us to keep some of the safeguards they started us out with. For example, Disney World is starting to phase in their reopening, so they want us to wear face coverings. They have social distancing requirements and temperature checks, but they also give a very stark warning of not blaming them if the virus is transmitted in any of their areas. But they want us wearing our mask in the summertime, when the risk of catching the flu is tremendously reduced. Not to say it doesn't happen, but how many people really catch the flu in the summer? The point I'm making is that it's just conditioning. It's all about keeping us in fear and placing controls on us. We are all being conditioned to understand that in order to be a part of this system, there will be conditions that we must adhere to. As you re-enter into society, do not get too lackadaisical with your way of thinking. Just because we are all eager to go outside does not mean that you should let your guard down. And I'm not talking about in reference to the virus, but how they will use this virus to reshape our lives. Think about all the potential situations and risks that are able to totally disrupt our lives more than they ever have been disrupted before. Think about the rights and controls we are currently giving away without choice. I am not telling you to not go outside and to stay quarantined. What I'm trying to tell you is to be smart about what you do. Use your head. Think. What you need to come to understanding is that the scapegoat of this virus is not going away. And that is easily understood if you just base it on how they keep talking about this virus coming back in the fall.
We will have coronavirus in the fall. I am convinced of that.
They keep alluding to a resurgence in China, and they are warning us that we run a big risk when flu season comes. This virus is coming back, and what that therefore means is that you should not be allowing your mind to get lazy and comfortable. We have a tendency to put our guards down and forget major risk when the situation seems to calm down. Do not do this. I do not know how to stress enough that the world will be forever changed, and they will use this virus as a catalyst for the change. We have not seen the transformation yet, so you should assume that the worst has yet to come. When thinking back on history and what we are told about the Spanish flu, in March of 1918, the virus emerged, and by April and May, it spread like wildfire through England, France, Spain, and Italy. Then we see reported cases of Spanish flu dropping off over the summer of 1918. And then there was hope at the beginning of